We are now joined by ESPN college football analyst and former Alabama quarterback, Greg McElroy. Greg, how we doing, man?
Good, man. It's good to be at Media Days.
It feels like Media Days is sort of like the signal fire that college football is like about to be here. Like, it's a lot of talking season, but it lets us know, okay, we're so close to playing games.
Right.
So close to playing games. And you said something today on SEC Now that if you had to pick today, you would take Ty Simpson to be the starter at Bama.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way about them right now?
A couple reasons. One, I think Jalen Milroe is a tremendous talent. I think he's a gifted football player. The explosiveness goes without saying. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. I mean, just give him the ball and see what he does with it. But there was a problem last year when it came to turnovers, and it wasn't just the A&M game. In 16 offensive turnovers for Alabama last year, he accounted for 5 of them. And having played in that offense, having lived life under Nick Saban, he doesn't forget those things very easily. So I do think he'll have to work his way back into the good graces as it comes to ball security. I think Tyler Buchner's been there for a very short period of time, and it's very difficult to win the team in that short of period of time. Yeah. And I remember back in 2014, Jake Coker transferred up from Florida State, and he was supposed to be the guy. It was a no-doubter. This guy's the guy. He just lost out to Jameis Winston in a great quarterback competition. And then there was this guy that was also on the team, and Blake Sims had been there for 4 years and developed relationships with guys on the roster. So when it was close in fall camp, the guys naturally gravitated to the guy that they knew. And that was Blake Sims. Ended up having a good year. Coker comes in 15, wins a national championship, but he had to wait his turn for a year. So I think when I look at those two aspects and the fact that Ty Simpson, it's not like he's a guy that was under-recruited or is a underachieving guy. He just hasn't had the opportunity yet. And I think with where the offense is going, it's going to be a premium on decision-making, a premium on distributing the football accurately from the pocket, off-play action, back to the defense, off-play action. That's where I think the offense is going, and I think he, at this point, is best suited to be able to run that at the highest possible level. So I think they're going to ultimately go with a little bit of a derby in the first game, and then come Texas time, they're going to have their guy. And like I said, my guess as of right now, I think it's going to be Ty Simpson.
Week 2 is when they got to know, though. Week 2, in your opinion, is when you have to have your guy.
Or you go 2-quarterback system, which we're seeing more and more.
And it's working.
It's working, especially when you take into account you have a guy that runs the prototypical offense between the 20s or between the 25s. And then when you get in the red zone and those yards become a lot more difficult to come by, having a quarterback that can run the football is really advantageous. So we saw it a little bit. We called XFL, and XFL is obviously very different than college football, but a lot of the offensive ideas are somewhat similar. And we saw multiple teams, when they got into the red zone, well, here comes the quarterback that can run the ball, and it's a run threat. So I think that's actually coming back. I think there should be more teams that are using that, more teams with multiple guys on the roster, because also if you just stick with one, you're going to lose guys in the portal possibly. Yeah. So keeping guys incentivized with playing time in critical down and distance situations, short yardage, red zone, I think is going to become potentially more the norm in college football.
And you mentioned Nick Saban earlier, and there's so much made right now about where he's at emotionally, whether he's like upset and feeling disrespected. I mean, you played under him. You know him better than anybody else when it comes to that relationship. Where is he at when it comes to that whole feeling disrespected underdog kind of thing? Is that real, or is that just something that we're making up when it comes to the media world?
I mean, I don't think he's oblivious to it, because he's not oblivious to anything. He knows everything. So, but I also don't think he cares. You know, I think he, within the building, and the best Alabama teams have lived to the standard that is set not by Nick Saban, but by the previous generations of players that came and went through the program. So when the expectation is to play at a certain level, doesn't matter who your opponent is, doesn't matter what the expectations are. I remember we were an underdog in 2009, and I mean, he played into it hard. Like, everyone thinks Florida's going to whip y'all's tail. Like, the Tebow guy, he's the best quarterback in the country. What are y'all going to do with it? So he played into it, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is some message board material if it makes its way to the Bama locker room. But no, he doesn't worry so much about what outside expectations are, because the expectations within the room are already so astronomically high.
Greg, last question for you before we get you out of here. Appreciate all your time.
Yeah.
Georgia, obviously, back-to-back national champs, top dog right now in college football. But you look at the rest of the SEC, first question, or I guess two-parter for you. How do you beat Georgia? And then is there someone that you think can do it in the SEC?
Well, I think the way to beat Georgia is the same way to beat Alabama the last couple of years, the same way to beat all the best teams, LSU's back in the day. You got to be able to win one-on-one matchups. And if you can't win one-on-one matchups, you're going to have a tough time. And when you think about one-on-one matchups, most people are thinking, well, wide receiver against corner. You got to be able to win a couple of those. And they're probably going to be able to take away your best weapon. So your second best guy, your third best guy, better be pretty good to be able to take advantage of maybe their weaker corner or their weaker cover guy. That's one. Two, I think you have to be able to get, because they're so specific with how they substitute, you have to be able to get into big personnel and throw the ball, and then get into little personnel and run the ball, meaning you'd get into 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, a running back, and 2 wide receivers, and throw it all over the yard, getting spread and spread their big guys out. And then when you get in small personnel, they're going to bring their small guys in, 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers, and a running back, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back. Then you run the ball out of those formations because they might be a little bit more gettable against the run. So I think you have to be able to play a way that is a little bit unique to substitution, and you got to be able to win one-on-one matchups. And then how do you stop their offense? I don't know what their offense is going to be.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if they do either yet. I don't know if they know.
I think I'll be able to tell you maybe a little better week 2.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be a heavy passing attack. So you got to be able to rush the quarterback. Carson Beck's a good athlete, but he's not going to be a guy that can really create the way Stetson did. So your pass rushers better be able to pin your ears back and go after and get the quarterback. And then in coverage, you better tackle in space. Because you know Lovett can create. You know Ladd McConkey's going to get separation. He can get behind you in a heartbeat. And you know Brock Bowers is an absolute beast. So you better be able to rush the quarterback. That's all I have to say.
It's going to be fun to watch. Well, Greg, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of Media Days.
Absolutely. Thanks, JD.
Almost time for college football.
Yeah, we're almost here.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.